Hello, Aries. Thank you for being here today. Not by accident, but because your soul is finally ready to reclaim something sacred you didn't even realize you had lost. I just ask you to pause for a few minutes because what you're about to hear might change the way you see yourself from the very root. This isn't about your career. It isn't about your love life. It's about your hair. Sounds strange, right? But sometimes the things we think are small are the ones holding the biggest truths. Your hair has been carrying a secret, a crown invisible but very real, a sacred thread that connects you to your ancestors, to your purpose, to the divine path you may have forgotten. And now it's time to remember, so we begin right here with the crown that's been resting on your head all along. You just didn't know you were wearing it. There are evenings when sunlight stretches across the porch roof and something stirs deep inside you, a longing that has no name. Something within you with no clear shape or sound starts whispering, something old, something sacred, something true. And today, dear Aries, the very moment you're listening to these words is the moment that ancient part of your soul begins to awaken. You didn't arrive in this space by accident. The universe doesn't send invitations by mail, it sends them through feelings. A tug in your chest, a quiet nudge in the middle of the noise, a silence that somehow says more than words ever could. All of it was guiding you here, because something important is ready to return to you, something sacred, something you've forgotten for far too long, and that something is your crown. Yes, I'm talking about your hair, the very thing you glance at in the mirror each morning, something you curl or straighten, dye or trim, as if it's just an accessory, part of your so-called appearance. But it's so much more than that. Not for Aries, not for souls like yours, carriers of the original flame. I want you to close your eyes just for a breath and picture your hair as a crown of light. It's not made of gold, it's not studded with diamonds, but every strand is a thread of energy, a memory, a song that's never been fully sung. It's a map connecting you to those who came before, to ancestral prayers, to divine light from the heavens. Once gifted to you, but slowly forgotten in the rush of life, in the pain, in the distractions. As someone who lives between the rivers of Buddhist wisdom and astrology, I've met so many people strong, brilliant, accomplished, and still lost. And oddly enough, they all shared one thing in common. They had forgotten their crown. They had stopped caring for their hair, not out of laziness, but because deep down, a part of them had stopped believing they were worthy of shining. But you're different, Aries. You're here, you chose to listen. I know there are days when you go through the motions. You work, you love, you dream, but inside something still feels missing. An emptiness that no one and nothing seems to fill. That is the sign of a soul waiting to be remembered. And the path home starts where you least expect, with the hair on your very head. Have you ever noticed? When you're heartbroken, your hair looks dull. When you're in love, it shines like it's catching sunlight. When you're stressed, it falls. But when you're free, it dances in the wind like poetry. Your hair doesn't speak, but it remembers your journey in a language only the soul can understand. So no, this isn't just a story I'm telling you. This is a message from somewhere higher. You're wearing a soul crown, Aries, and like every crown, it wasn't made for smallness, not for fading paths or buried dreams. It was made for leaders, for pioneers, for those who inspire. If you've ever felt not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy of something beautiful, then let your hair remind you you are, because no crown is placed by accident. It was set on your head long before you knew its meaning. And now your mission is to remember that light. Touch your hair as if you're touching an ancient memory, where ancestors left blessings, where dreams were tucked away in silence, where power never left, just waited for you to call it by name. And when you listen long enough, you'll understand. Hair is not just form, it's a bridge, a delicate, powerful thread linking heaven and earth and anchoring you to your highest self. Maybe you're still unsure, maybe this is new, but trust this, when truth arrives, it doesn't shout, it whispers, like wind through the trees at dusk. And in that stillness, you will know. Your hair was never just hair. It is an antenna, a sacred receiver quietly catching light from above, from your ancestors, from the depth of your soul. And now, it's time to listen again, not with your mind, but with your heart, sometimes in the middle of an ordinary afternoon. When the breeze brushes softly against your hair, you shiver, not because you're cold, but because something in that moment touches a part of you that words can't reach. It's as if something ancient just whispered your name from far away, a voice with no sound, a calling without form. Your hair. Have you ever looked at it as something alive? Not just an extension of the body, but a part of your soul, not something meant to be hidden, but something meant to tell a story. Your hair isn't just leftover strands of cells, it's a spiritual antenna, receiving signals from above. What lives in your hair is more than the eye can see. Within every strand are codes of energy, marks from childhood, fragments from past lives, unspoken dreams, the gaze of someone who once loved you deeply, and even the shadows left by someone who once pierced you with envy. Have you ever felt exposed? When someone ran their fingers through your hair, as if they were touching something sacred, something even you don't fully understand. That's not your imagination. That's the soul's memory stored in your hair. Every strand is a journal entry, some written in joy, some in tears. Some still carry the echo of your breakdowns, while others hold the warmth of your mother's hand when she gently stroked your head as a child. Your ancestors didn't leave letters, they left prayers woven into your hair. Each spiral, each part, each root whispers a sacred vow. Be stronger than we were. Heal what we could not. Live worthy of the light this bloodline once longed for. And every new inch that grows carries fresh light. Light still waiting to be awakened because your soul is still remembering who you are, where you came from, and why you're here. So don't be surprised if your energy feels different after a haircut or when someone touches your hair. That moment can open the door to memory. And not every soul is ready for that. This might sound mystical, but if you've ever stood in front of a mirror after going through something heavy, you've seen it. Your hair changes. It's not the same as it was before. It feels like it walked through the storm with you, and it carries the marks of that quietly but clearly. I once spoke with an elderly woman, a retired teacher. She told me that for most of her life, she never gave her hair a second thought. But after a deep personal loss, one day she placed her hand on her head and burst into tears, not because of the pain, but because she realized she had abandoned her hair and with it a part of her soul that had long been waiting to be heard. When she began caring for her hair as if it were a dear friend, her life changed. She said, "I no longer felt alone. Each morning when I brushed my hair, it felt like I was talking to the pieces of myself I had once rejected." And I believe her, because tending to our hair is an act of acknowledgement, of honoring the small things that hold big meaning, of remembering that what lives on the outside reflects what's still healing within. What we touch with reverence will begin to heal us. Have you ever noticed your energy shift when someone touches your hair, when you share that experience? You're not just telling a story, you're awakening a soul memory in someone else who needed to hear it. Leave a comment, a reflection, a fragment from your own journey. Who knows? Your words might be the very light someone else is searching for, and in that final silence we begin to understand that sometimes the smallest things, when truly listened to with the heart, become the quiet miracles that guide us back to our truest self. And that is when you may begin to feel a soft light flowing from the crown of your head down into your heart. You've just stepped into a deeper layer where the true Aries crown begins to awaken, and the fire of your soul is called again by something higher. The world keeps telling us that hair is just an accessory, a decorative detail meant for appearance. But there's something that old souls, the ones who have walked through lifetimes, know deep in their bones. Hair is not decoration. It is the temple of sacred fire. For Aries, your hair is not just hair. It is the dwelling place of the flame within you. The flame the universe placed in your soul from the very beginning. The fire of intuition. The fire of your mission. The primal memory of who you are and why you were born under the sign of the pioneer. Every strand of hair is like a small candle, every root a tiny window to the divine. When you touch it with gratitude, the flame grows brighter. When you neglect it, take it for granted, or let someone else touch it without reverence, that flame trembles, and so does your soul. I've seen people lose the light in their eyes without knowing why, And oddly enough, their return to themselves began with something simple, a gentle stroke of the hair in full presence, a whispered blessing while brushing it in the morning, a small act of care not for appearance, but to keep the soul's flame alive. A friend of mine, also an Aries, once told me, "I realized where I was hurting when I found I couldn't touch my own hair with kindness." And I understood, because when you can't touch yourself with love, something inside has gone dim, and it's time to call that light back. Your Aries hair isn't here just to float in the wind. It's a celestial marker, a sign from the higher realms, placed on your crown to awaken the raw courage within you. When you enter a room, people may not notice your eyes or your smile first. They notice your hair, not because it's flawless, but because it sends a signal. It says something about you, something even you might not say aloud. And here's the truth. Each strand, every little spiral, is the crystallization of a promise made in heaven. A vow that you would always have fire to guide your way, that you would never walk without light. But when the world gets too loud, you forget how to listen. When you care for your hair as a sacred ritual, you're reactivating those old prayers. You're reminding the universe, I'm still here. I'm still willing to hold the flame. Each time the sunlight kisses your hair, each time you brush it with tenderness, you relight the lantern of your soul, the one that may have dimmed from hurt, from being forgotten, from pressure and pain. And I want you to remember this like a mantra whispered just for you. Every strand is a memory, every root a promise from heaven. So don't let anyone call you vain for loving your hair. They don't understand that what you're doing is an act of courage. You are tending the fire. And when that fire is held long enough, cared for with enough devotion, it doesn't just light your path, it becomes a quiet beacon for others, like the flame of one person, burning in the night, not shouting, not trying to shine, yet warm enough for someone nearby to feel healed. Maybe today all you've done is gently place your hand on your head without a word, but within that simple act, a powerful beginning is unfolding. A silent response to your soul's whisper, I am ready to come home. And in that homecoming, something else begins to stir, like lava flowing beneath the earth, like a message traveling from another dimension. No noise, no display, but it rises like a warm wave pouring down from above, covering your heart, and then you begin to feel the transformation, not just in your energy, but in every step, every breath, as if you're being led, somewhere far and deep, somewhere your soul's flame finally meets the source of its light, the light it's been waiting for, to come home. We spend so much of life cleaning things, don't we? Our homes, our desks, our minds, even our social feeds. We detox our bodies with herbal teas, cleanse our emotions through meditation. And yet, we often forget one sacred place, the crown of energy sitting right at the top of our head. You know, Aries, your hair is the very first to touch the energy of the world, and the very last to hold onto what you thought had already passed. And yet, how often do we let others touch it without even thinking? There are hands that have stroked your hair without reverence. There were times you walked into a salon with a heart full of pain and walked out feeling even more lost, because in that moment you handed over your crown to someone, right when you needed protection the most. I once sat with a middle-aged man, an Aries, strong in both body and spirit, a warrior in every sense of the word. He said he didn't believe in spirituality, but when I asked him, when was the last time you got a haircut while feeling heartbroken? His eyes turned red, because in that instant he realized something. Every time he'd been betrayed, he cut his hair, and every time he felt weaker afterward, more lost. I looked at him and I understood, because when your soul is fractured and you let someone touch your hair, you open a sacred door without a guardian to protect it. That's why spiritual hygiene is not just about burning sage, chanting mantras, or cleansing your home. Sometimes it begins with something simple, washing your hair with gratitude, brushing it with calm breath, and letting only mindful hands touch your crown. I truly believe every action becomes a ritual when done with presence. A mother brushing her child's hair in silence, an elder combing their own before bed, a woman standing at the mirror in the morning, softly whispering, I am enough, I am strong, and this hair, bears witness to all I've survived. Each one a ritual of healing. Don't let the world convince you that caring for your hair is vanity. When you wash your hands, you clean your skin. But when you care for your hair, you cleanse energy because hair remembers. It holds the eyes that looked at you, the words you couldn't unhear, the vibration of every place you've passed through, both light and heavy. I often say, we smudge our homes, purify our living spaces, and forget the true crown that absorbs it all sits on our head. You walk through a tense space, your hair remembers. You hug someone carrying heavy emotions, your hair records it. You stay up all night worrying and wake to tangled strands. That's not random, that is your soul crying for help. And here's something you need to know. You don't owe anyone the right to touch your hair. No one is entitled to it without reverence, not just because they're close, not just because they love you, because hair is not just hair. It is the holiest part, the meeting place between you and the destiny you carry. So from today on, tend to your hair as if you're dusting off the altar of your ancestors. Each morning, place your hand gently on your head as if you're tuning back into the higher realms. And when you wash your hair, do it in silence, as if rinsing away every noise you've absorbed through the day. And then, if you do this often enough, you'll begin to notice some things don't need to be explained in words. A single, gentle stroke of the hair can bring tears, not from pain, but because finally, you've come home to yourself, to the part of your soul that's been quietly waiting for you to dust it off and listen. And from that moment on, you'll begin to hear a different frequency, deeper, slower, but crystal clear, like the sound of a flame, rising from a place you thought had gone cold. A fire not meant to destroy, but to lead. It doesn't always take a grand ceremony. You don't need candles, music, or incense for something to be sacred. Sometimes, the most sacred thing is simply your quiet presence in the most ordinary moment of your life, morning when you're still half asleep. Standing in front of the mirror in complete silence, instead of rushing to grab the brush, to tie your hair, to run out the door, pause just for a moment. Place your right hand gently on the top of your head, right where you always thought was just your hair. Close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, say softly but clearly, as if speaking to your soul, I honor my crown, I reclaim my power. And then, in that short moment, just imagine, from the center of your palm, a warm white light begins to pour like golden nectar, flowing gently through your strands, into your scalp, down your forehead, across your throat, and into your heart. You don't have to see it clearly. You only have to allow it, because what you're doing is waking up a stream of energy that has always been there, just buried under the dust of time and busyness. You're unlocking a door that's long been closed, not locked, just forgotten. And if you repeat this ritual for 3 mornings in a row, something begins to shift. Not loud, not sudden, but real. You'll notice you start speaking more slowly. You breathe deeper. You choose more carefully who touches your hair. You move through the world more quietly, but others begin to notice you more. You no longer feel the need to be seen because you've finally seen yourself. There's a phrase I want you to remember, like a soft whisper, from someone who's already walked this path before you. Every time you place your hand on your head, you're not just touching hair, you're touching purpose. Try this ritual just 3 mornings, then come back here and tell me, what shifted? What feeling woke up inside you? Did you find yourself walking taller, saying no more easily to what no longer fits your spirit? Did you begin to see your hair, not as a style, but as a language? Write it down in the comments. Your story isn't just yours. It might awaken someone who's forgotten their own light, because sometimes a small ritual is all it takes to remind a soul you are still here, you were never lost. You were just waiting for someone to call you back with tenderness, and when the calling is gentle enough, warm enough, the light begins to stir within the darkness, not to erase the past, but to illuminate the path ahead. Not everything you feel belongs to you. Not every ache you carry comes from what you've lived through. Some feelings are like shadows in the chest, a sadness with no clear cause, an anxiety without a name, a vague heaviness as if something is pressing on your shoulders, but it lies just beyond memory's reach. This is emotional inheritance, echoes of energy passed down through blood, silent, persistent, and sometimes sorrowful. And your hair, Aries, holds onto those memories, not to bind you, but to help you release. I want you to imagine something. Picture a long line of people standing behind you, many, quiet, still. They don't speak, but their eyes rest on you, as if you're the only one who can do what they never could. A grandmother who swallowed her voice all her life. A grandfather who buried his dreams in a time of war. A mother who loved, forgave, gave everything, and never asked for anything in return. All of them stand behind you, and they don't want repayment. They only want healing. You are the first in your lineage to become aware enough not to repeat the cycle. You are the flame of Aries, but you don't burn for yourself alone. You burn to light the old path, to burn away the invisible ropes, to ignite a new way forward for everyone who came before. And your hair, each strand, is the thread that ties you to them. Within it are forgotten prayers, moonlit dreams whispered into the night, lullabies no one remembers, and tears soaked into the earth never wiped away. Every time you brush your hair with love, you're laying a flower on your ancestors' graves. No cemetery needed, no incense or altar, just a simple gesture, as light as a hand, as deep as a lifetime. I once met a woman, an Aries, who couldn't understand why she always carried a vague sense of guilt. Every time she looked in the mirror and saw her tangled hair, she felt like she was carrying something old, something heavy, on her head. Until one day she began a simple ritual. She brushed her hair each night, in silence, and whispered a thank you to those who came before. No begging, no blaming, just, "I'm grateful for what you gave, and I will heal what you could not." After that, her dreams changed, her face changed, and people began to see something in her, a light, a radiance no makeup could ever create. Aries, you were chosen to transform pain into light. You don't need to do something grand. Just begin with your hair. Each morning you can whisper, "I release the pain that's not mine. I keep the blessings that are." And let every strand, when it touches the wind, carry that blessing back to where it came from, because when you heal, they heal. And when they heal, you finally become who you truly are, whole, clear, no longer burdened by unnamed shadows. And from that place, where prayers are finally released from silence, something tender begins to rise, like a stream just breaking free, gentle, cool, flowing straight into the heart. Soft but steady, not rushed, not tangled, just the moment your heart finally gets to breathe, as if no one ever told it not to. The world doesn't need you to become someone else. The world needs you to come back to who you truly are, but the version of you who remembers why you were born. And strangely, that journey home begins in a place you once thought small, your hair. Ever since you started touching your hair with reverence, something began to shift. It's not just the reflection in the mirror, not just the clean feeling after washing. It's the light, a light not seen with the eyes, but felt in the way others now respond to your presence. They don't know what changed, but they feel it. They listen more closely. They look at you longer. They want to be near you, not because you're trying to shine, but because you're simply being real. And that is when your divine purpose begins to awaken. You'll notice doors opening, but no longer leading to places that drain you. Now they open to spaces that welcome your true self, your true energy. Encounters that seemed random start to feel like destiny. Dreams that once felt distant begin to take form, and your heart no longer needs to fight, because now you remember you didn't come into this world to fit in. You came to guide, to illuminate, to awaken. Your hair in its physical form is just the surface, but in the soul's realm it is your torch tower, and every time you care for it, you're brushing dust off the symbol of your life's mission. And as your crown awakens, your life begins to move to a new frequency. This is no longer effort, it is harmony. Harmony with what is true for your soul. Harmony with the current of your ancestors who now smile behind you, no longer burdened, but at peace, knowing you've stepped into the right direction. Harmony with your guardian spirits, those light beings gently shaping your path, ready to guide you so long as you hold a little silence to listen. Aries, you've always been the pioneer, but sometimes to lead, you must first be still, still in your authentic energy, still in the light of your hair's quiet rebirth. And from that still point, every path begins to open as if the universe had been waiting a very long time to hand you a gift. you could only receive once you truly return to yourself. Now, every step you take is no longer chaotic but steady. Every word you speak is no longer seeking approval but sharing light. And within that transformation, you begin to realize something sacred. That your body, your appearance, is not just an outer shell. It is a mirror reflecting your soul's evolution, where the light has been activated. It begins to glow from your skin, your posture, your gaze, and especially from the quiet, powerful resurrection of your crown. And once your crown is fully restored, what you begin to feel in your body, in your appearance, in the way you now move through life will surprise even you, because the way you look is no longer just beauty, it is frequency, it is message, it is living proof that you are walking the path of your soul's evolution. Thank you, dear Aries, for being here not by chance but because your soul was ready to receive something sacred, something you didn't realize you had once left behind. Thank you for walking with me through layers of memory, through fields of energy, through quiet moments where your hair, so often silent, became a sacred bridge between you and something greater than logic could ever explain. Not everyone has the courage to listen with their heart. Not everyone has the patience to return to the forgotten parts of themselves, but you did, and that is the first step on any true healing journey. I believe that from this moment on, each time you touch your hair, it will no longer be unconscious. Each time you look into the mirror, you will no longer just see a face, you'll see light. The light of someone who has remembered who they are. The light of someone who wears their crown with no need to prove anything. The light of an Aries who is truly awake. And from the deepest part of my soul, I offer you this quiet blessing. May you, who sit in stillness and know how to hear the gentlest signals of the universe, always be protected. May your crown always shine, not just from outward beauty, but from the pure energy you are now restoring. May the light within you become a silent lantern for other souls, those who have forgotten that they once had a crown, once had fire, once made a wish that never came true. And if one day you feel lost again, doubtful or in need of remembering, just return to your hair, touch it gently, and you will hear the voice of light speaking once again. Final closing line, optional voice out ending already written before. Thank you, dear Aries, for sitting here with an open heart and listening not just with your ears, but your soul. May your crown glow with protection, and may your light guide those who have forgotten their own.